Yep.
This is the OTB Television Network.
They make their way to the top of the stretch. Soldat to honor and serve. Now Gourmet Dinner's going to swing up on the outside of them, and they're into the stretch. And it's Soldat in front. Gourmet Dinner has taken second on the outside. To honor and serve is back into third. Bowman's Causeway is fourth. It's Soldat and Gourmet Dinner, and Soldat has the lead down to the wire. Soldat and Alan Garcia have won the Basic Tipton Fountain of Youth. Gourmet Dinner was second, To Honor and Serve was third, and Bowman's Causeway was fourth.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. Along with my colleague Mike VIETCH, the racing columnist with the Saratoga, I'm Mark CUSANO, welcoming you to this morning's program. And over the next 60 minutes or so in topical, a South Florida dates conflict has been resolved. Plenty of three-year-olds making the news. Our stakes recap will feature the sophomores. Michael will have his second pedigree on the class of 2011, and then one very special guest this morning, joining us from Southern California. On opening day of the Santa Anita meet, this gentleman swept the three stakes that were carded, and he's just kept it going the entire meet. And he's got a chance to keep it going this afternoon on Big Cap Day. That's Mr. John Sadler, who will have, among others, the solid favorite for this afternoon's Santa Anita Handicap in Twirling Candy. So all of that and much, much more if you stay with us for this, our March 5th edition of the program, our anniversary edition, as we kick off our 20th season on the air, and we're so glad you're with us. Good morning,
Well,
partner.
happy anniversary to you. That's quite a milestone, I would say, and the way things are. Now, before we get to what will be known later, and you'll understand, the John Sadler Hour this morning, okay? That's what we're going to have, and we're glad he's going to be with us. You know, you have to start thinking spring.
Oh, I've been thinking,
Now,
I've been thinking about it.
The Gotham is here.
Yeah.
Spring is blossom. Toby goes in for graded earnings.
Yep.
Stay Thirsty comes back, the
Yep.
hopeful second.
Yeah.
It kicks off the graded stakes program that takes us to the Wood and the Jim Dandy and the Belmont and the Travers.
Yeah.
Gary Contessa's in there. This
Yep.
year he hopes the horse runs straight.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on at the Big A today, and I can't wait to see the Gotham.
Yeah.
It's spring.
Yeah. Well, I have one question for you. Where the hell is it spring?
It's spring.
Where is spring blossoming
It's blossom
anywhere
time.
around
There's
here? Yeah.
3 bulbs ready to go here this afternoon.
Oh, God. Yeah. Santa Anita Handicap Day.
A big day.
We went on the air on March 7th, 1992. Big Cap Day that year. Best Pal won it
Best
that
Pal?
year. One of my favorite races of all time. The legendary late great Bill
Oh, yeah.
Shoemaker won it 11 times. But when I look at the Big Cap in recent years and when I look at it this afternoon, it actually does make me sad. When you look at the field for this afternoon's Big Cap, there is not a single horse, not one, in there who's won at 1.25 miles in North America. And there's only a couple who've ever tried 1.25 miles. You know, the days of the great Big Caps, I'm afraid, are long gone. But John's got an interesting rate. Well, he's got a couple. He's got Gladding, but Twirling Candy's certainly the one to beat. And we've got in fact, we've got a half a dozen horses to talk to John about
it's the
later
John
on.
Sadler show
Yes.
today. It's okay.
All right. A potential disaster was averted in South Florida earlier this week when both Gulfstream Park and Calder amended their future racing dates. With both operations threatening to race against each other year-round, somehow cooler heads prevailed, and now there will be no overlapping dates. Gulfstream will open its next meet about a month earlier, December 12th to be exact, and race until April 8th. Calder will begin a day after that and run until December 2nd. In essence, Gulfstream and Calder swapped the December and April dates. Gulfstream now getting the more lucrative dates, which Calder has had, I think, for about 4 decades, while Calder now gets the April ones. On the surface, that doesn't make any sense for Calder. My guess is, and this is only a guess, is that they were financially taken care of.
What I'm really interested in is what happens to those mile-and-a-half turf races that I surely always like, which seems to be Calder's best events.
Yeah.
Where do they go?
I don't know.
They're Calder's property, I would think.
It's going to be interesting
Yeah.
because, let's remember, Churchill runs until the very end of November.
That's right.
Like, I think it was November 27th or 28th last year.
Thanksgiving Day weekend, yeah, sure.
And
yeah.
will this mean that more New York horsemen will leave earlier in the fall because it's Gulfstream now, and the purses are better?
It's a good question, of course.
That's
Yeah.
going to be
Oh, yeah,
interesting
sure,
to see.
yeah.
But it would have been a disaster had cooler
I don't
heads.
know how
And I don't know how cooler
adults
heads
could even
prevailed.
have come up with something like that, but I don't know
So-
a lot of things anymore.
Greg Avioli has resigned as president and CEO of the Breeders' Cup to take a similar position with Frank Stronach's Magna Developments. Avioli had been the head of the Breeders' Cup since 2006. Now, there may be some good news in here for the New York Racing Association because, folks, to be honest, there was no love lost between Avioli and the NYRA.
No.
This could be a pretty good thing for NYRA.
Sure, yeah.
And speaking of the Breeders' Cup, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission announced that it will release its findings and recommendations on the Life at 10 debacle next Thursday. That means if they release them to the public on Thursday, that will be just 1 day shy of 18 weeks since she, I don't want to say raced in the Ladies Classic, but participated to a degree in the Ladies Classic. This is going to be very interesting to see their findings and recommendations. That will be next Thursday. Okay, 3-year-old news. Crossbow, who was scratched from last Saturday's Hutchison after having drawn the rail, has been sidelined indefinitely with a small bone chip in his right front ankle. Crossbow had been scheduled to ship to New York for today's Gotham, but will now likely have surgery to remove that chip, and that's an unfortunate situation for the Kieran McLaughlin trainee. And Mucho Macho Man, the good-looking winner of the Risen Star and Last, will return to the fairgrounds for the Louisiana Derby, bypassing the Florida Derby. Now, this makes perfect sense to me. It's lesser competition. He likes the track. Both races are $1 million. The only major difference is that the Louisiana Derby is 6 weeks out from the first Saturday in May versus the Florida Derby being 5 weeks out from the Kentucky Derby.
Well, he's going to be more seasoned than some of the favorites, so I'll say that there's a bit of a tip there in his favor because he's been going hard for quite some time. But what I want to note on this topic, and I didn't see if you put it in here, I really salute his majority owner who gave the full winner's share of the jockey's purse to Ibar Koa.
Yes,
and I think that's very... I'm touched by that.
Yep.
That's a wonderful thing, and we hope Ibar is continuing to be on the mend. But I just thought that was almost the story of the week.
Yeah, Dean
that's
Reeves.
Left in this world
Dean
today.
Reeves
so.
is the majority owner of Mucho Macho Man, and Rajiv
had
Mehra made
substituted, I think,
$18,000 for winning the race, and Dean Reeves presented Ibar with a check for $18,000. Now, Kathy Ritvo trains Mucho Macho Man. Her husband is Tim Ritvo, the vice president of racing at Gulfstream.
Yeah.
That must have been a pretty interesting discussion over dinner. By the way, honey, I'm not going to run in the Florida Derby. I'm taking him back to the fairgrounds.
The trainer's supposed to call the shots, and
That's
I
right.
like that.
That's right.
So,
And if it's anything like my house, you know, the man gets 49% of the vote, so that takes care of that. Uncle Mo, who is scheduled to make his first start of the year in next Saturday's Timely Writer at Gulfstream, is one of 36 3-year-olds nominated to that overnight stakes. In an effort to make certain the race fills, Todd Pletcher has nominated a dozen others. So there is a very good chance that the Timely Writer will fill. I think that's great.
No comment.
All right, one Timely Writer nominee who will not run in that race is dialed in. The Nick Zito-trained colt, who impressively captured the Holy Bull, will run instead tomorrow in a non-winners 2 other than allowance at Gulfstream. It's 9 furlongs, it's 2 turns. Those are the things which Nick Zito wanted, and it gives him an extra week to prepare for the Florida Derby. Now, there is a very small field tomorrow without much speed, so I'm not looking for anything breathtaking from dialed in. I mean, this could be somewhere between workmanlike and ugly, because this is a colt who came from the clouds at 6.5 furlongs. He came from the clouds at a mile, but in a paceless or somewhat paceless race, he'll be that much closer to the pace going 9 furlongs, and we're going to see how he looks. Personally, since he is my number 1 Derby prospect, I am very pleased that that race filled tomorrow, because had that not filled, the only other spot Nick Zito could have run him was the Timely Writer at a mile. And he didn't want to run him a mile again, coming off the Holy Bull. Any thoughts on that?
He's your guy.
Yes, he is.
You know, are there any older horses entered tomorrow?
Yes.
Good.
Yep, there's a
good.
couple of older. I mean, there's not much in there. Zito could easily run 1, 2. Yeah. But don't expect anything earth-shattering. Yeah. Again, I think it's going to be more of a workmanlike effort. All right.
Okay.
Let's get to the races. Our feature race from last weekend, the Fountain of Youth. 2 main storylines in here. The return of To Honor and Serve, number 7, making his first start since a solid 2-year-old finale in the Remsen, as we take a look at the Fountain of Youth. This also marked the first start on a dry fast track for number 1 Soldat, who figured to, and did, despite breaking a bit flat-footed, control the pace from the inside post. Now, Soldat would face early pressure from long shot El Grayling, forcing To Honor and Serve into the 3 or 4 path. All the while, number 2 Gourmet Dinner in the pink silks would sit a beautiful inside in behind trip. Now, the Fountain of Youth featured a steady pace, and Soldat faced constant, steady pressure through 24-1, 47-4, and 12-2. Now, as soon as Soldat would dispose of the overmatched El Grayling, To Honor and Serve would pounce on him from the outside. That bid would be short-lived, and when Soldat would put him away inside the quarter pole, Gourmet Dinner would take up the chase. Soldat was more than equal to every challenge, as he would go on to a good-looking 2-length score over a game, but I think distance challenge Gourmet Dinner, with To Honor and Serve a somewhat lucky to be 3rd, beaten 6 3/4. Bowman's Crossing, a recent impressive maiden graduate, would finish a troubled 4th. So, we find out that Soldat can easily handle a normal main track. But what did we find out about To Honor and Serve?
Well, let's take Soldat first, because this is, last week when you were speaking with Kieran, he joked and he said, you know, with respect to the running on the dry surface, reach into your pocket, take the rubber band off the wad of bills and go to the window. Joke, this was no joke. This guy was cranked to run a good race. I happen to think this was just a plain outstanding performance by a guy who we must remember is a graded winner on turf, and we'll be talking more about that a little later in the show. The most important thing here to me in this race, and I will get to Honor and Serve, is that Soldat, if he wins the Florida Derby, will go to the Kentucky Derby with 3 victories at 9 furlongs. Karen seems to understand what reading the book is all about. And some of the others, don't take this wrong, guys, some of the other well-known names are sort of like pampered candy, you fill in the rest of the blank in terms of how they're being handled. Karen is running his horse, and I love it. To Honor and Serve was a short horse. I am maybe in the minority in thinking this was a very useful prep. If he is sound, if he is physically fit, but just needs racing, I will look at this as a very good return, keeping in mind there is one more race and keeping in mind that Bill Mott doesn't need anybody's instructions on how to get a horse to peak to go a distance of ground. I'm not disappointed in To Honor and Serve at all. He was wide, you can see it here. That's not an excuse. Essentially, he had a very, very good trip in my view. He just came up short. You're supposed to get tired. You're supposed to need a race. You're not a brilliant horse. Nobody's accusing you of being Uncle Mo. I think he's on schedule. I think Billy has him on schedule. And quite honestly, I think a lot of people who have commented on this race, and there's a lot of good handicappers out there, kind of almost have sort of forgotten what it means to bring a horse back short and have him get something out of a race. Now, we'll see more about that in the Florida Derby, of course, I realize that. But that's my answer to your question about what purpose did it serve for To Honor and Serve. The winner just is in a beautiful mental place right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, now Soldat with post 1 and speed had a very big advantage going in. He took pressure from 3 different rivals at different stages of the race and turned them all away. Kieran has already said there's no problem with this horse off the pace. And if he draws in the middle to the outside in the Florida Derby, we're going to see that style. But here's To Honor and Serve. And I understand that this is his first start in 13 weeks. So there's a very good chance he was going to be short. But I consider a good horse when he comes back to be short if he makes a run to somewhere in the middle to deep stretch and then flattens out.
I understand. Oh, sure, I understand.
To Honor and Serve was done just inside the quarter pole. Now, I thought it was an okay effort. Here's the thing. He's only going to have 1 more start prior to the Derby. If he were going to have 2 more starts, then Billy would have room to work with. With him coming up that far short, being that, I don't know, unfit, Billy's going to be walking a very tight line here to get him ready off just 1 more race. Now, Billy's had, actually, I had to research this because I made a mistake with Karen last week. Billy's had more Kentucky Derby starters than I realized. Billy's had 7 Kentucky Derby starters. But I feel safe to say that he's never had one as good as this one.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it was okay, but man, oh man, are things going to have to go absolutely perfectly for To Honor and Serve with only 1 more start?
I think Billy's going to himself have, although not in the same year, 3 straight 9 furlong races. This reminded me a bit of his debut, which was at 7 furlongs, not 5.5 or 6. I think he desperately needed the race.
Oh, no question.
And I think Bill Mott is looking at the whole season. I think, Billy is just a very calculating, very cool, wonderful horseman. He's not going to live and die for the Kentucky Derby. He's going to live and die for this season. This is a really beautifully bred horse. I hope that we get to it. So I just, I think it's a fine return. I think, when you don't have a horse who is brilliant, this is what you do if you're going to go into the Triple Crown. And I know I'm in the minority. Obviously, I'll be very interested in what happens on Florida Derby Day, but it's Bill Mott. And I think this was okay. I really do.
Well, I think it was okay,
I really
but
do.
just okay. I don't have it any better
But I
than
think
that.
it's okay with him that it was just okay. And I think it's okay with them in the whole picture of the year about running classic distances, that it's okay.
And you're right about looking at the year as a whole. But what about the first Saturday in May? Is he going to be able to have him tight enough?
I have no
Saturday in
doubt
May?
that Charlotte Weber and Live Oak and Billy would love to dearly win this. I mean, after all, Billy's a Churchill Downs champion. We know all that. But, I mean, he's a master horseman, all right? Now, maybe the horse is going to tell him in the Florida Derby he doesn't belong. And we got a guy who's going to say, he doesn't belong, I'm pulling him. I'm going to regroup for the Travers or something.
Yeah.
I just don't doubt him being ready to go 10 furlongs on Derby Day and have something left in the tank to carry on. I think that's what you do.
Well, I think he would be better served at this point, and it's too late to change your plans in all likelihood. But with that effort, as early as he got tired in that race, he might be better served as far as the first Saturday in May to have 2 more preps, not 1. Gourmet Dinner, very nice, hard-knocking son of Trippy. Beautiful inside-out trip under Ramon. Remember, a 1 1/8 at Gulfstream is the shortest 1 1/8 you're going to get. I think he's a wonderful racehorse.
I do too.
Who's not going to get the distance. Now, they're talking about maybe leaving South Florida to go to the Santa Anita Derby because it would be an easier spot, and I can absolutely understand that because I think the Florida Derby is going to be brutal. Earlier I said that To Honor and Serve may have been lucky to get 3rd. And the reason I said that is, if you go back and watch this replay, I want you to watch Bowman's Causeway, who was coming back in just 15 days off a very impressive maiden score, and he was running for the 3rd time in less than a month. He was traveling very nicely down the backstretch and around the far turn till he got to the 5/16 pole when he was forced to steady at a critical juncture. He dropped back and then re-rallied. Watch for Bowman's Causeway. I thought that was a sneaky good 4th, and to tell you the truth, if he doesn't get in trouble, I think he runs 3rd. Now, one final question about Billy Mott. He is a Hall of Famer. He is a great trainer. There's no question. He's a magnificent horseman. After the race, Billy was quoted as saying that he told Johnny Velasquez going into the race not to do too much with To Honor and Serve.
Right.
Do not do too much with him.
Right.
Be careful with him. Come back and tell me, what we can do to make... Okay. Should that have been public knowledge going into the race that he tells Johnny, don't do too much with it?
That's one of the great questions that we faced on this show and everybody faces who makes a living in this business forever. You always face it. If you're deeply in the game, that remark doesn't surprise you at all. If you're new to the game, it's upsetting, and I totally understand that. And Billy was being very truthful.
Yes.
Okay, the objective is not to win the Fountain of Youth. Now, having said that, if you can win the Fountain of Youth and not do too much, that's wonderful, okay? But this is what prep racing is all about, and that's, I can't answer, should it be public knowledge? I mean, the way I look at stuff like that, and I'm a backstretch guy, is if everything you hear and see on the backstretch before a race becomes public knowledge, you'll be finding a lot of faults with people who say things and it turns out they weren't right anyway. So, Billy was being honest.
He was, but we want to draw new people to the sport.
Oh, that's...
And I guarantee you, last Saturday at Gulfstream,
there's no doubt people
there
are
were
angry.
a lot of new people
Absolutely
there.
True.
Absolutely true. And by the way, To Honor and Serve was the betting favorite throughout the entire betting until the last 30 seconds. But he was still the solid second choice. How would you like to be a newcomer to the game, to have gone to Gulfstream that day?
I completely understand that.
Bet To Honor and Serve, and the next day you pick up the newspaper, and Billy's saying, I told Johnny to be very careful with him. I mean, I think we have a problem. I think we have a perception
racing has a problem
Yes.
with its education. It really does. I mean, here's another public knowledge question, okay? Should it be public knowledge how many horses are not let out of a race, taken off turf, and put on dirt, and they're stuck?
I understand.
Should that be public knowledge?
I understand. Absolutely. But all I'm saying is...
I'm not against you. I'm just saying.
We need to draw new people to the sport. That's not going to help.
Yeah.
On the Fountain of Youth undercard, the Hutchison in a battle between a pair of second-time starters. Number 3, Traveling Man, was the 70 cent to $1 favorite. Quite impressive in his debut at Gulfstream. Versus number 5, Flashpoint, nearly 7 to 1. Quite impressive in his debut at Aqueduct. Now, Flashpoint, with the advantage of having drawn outside of Traveling Man, would lay on him for the first 5.5 furlongs. 22 flat, 44-2, and 8-4. Now, with about a furlong and a half left, and Cornelio Velasquez, watch him. He's second on the outside right now. Cornelio having looked over his right shoulder to see if anybody was coming, because he knows he's got Traveling Man. He's going to turn Flashpoint loose, leaving the heavy favorite in his wake, and go on to what I thought was a great-looking 7 1/4 length romp in the Hutchison. This is a very good-looking son of Pomeroy out of a 2-punch mare. Now, we know that speed on speed on speed. But watch now. Cornelio's going to look over his right shoulder. There's nobody there. He's going to say bye-bye to Traveling Man. Michael, I thought this was a wonderful
You have
effort.
to, and it's the story of the week as far as I'm concerned. Look, let's be honest here. This guy's a beast. He is just a beast. Look at the way he's built. He's just a moving tank with speed. He debuted in wonderful fashion at Aqueduct on the inner. We have seen over the years the inner guys get excited and come down here, and that usually doesn't produce a result. Like, I think Takarub and Mr. Fantasy come to mind. I'm leaving out some names, but you get my point. Flashy inner dirters, and if January comes south, and that doesn't turn out this way. But to me, about the exciting story of the weekend, we've got John Fort throwing down a $1 million challenge to the Factor to come over here and run against me in the Swale. I love it, absolutely love it. We have the other end of the spectrum is I may train him up to the Derby off these 7 furlong races. I like it. So for all of you fans, pardon me, for all of you fans properly upset about what Mark and I talked about a few moments ago about the information gap, here's something to really put your teeth into, and here's an exciting, and quite frankly, I hope it turns out that way.
Wait a minute. What challenge is John Ford up? He wants Gulfstream to put up $1 million for the Swale.
I love it. I love it.
The Swale's
I love it.
the same race as the Hutchison.
I know
it's
that.
It's 7 furlongs. It's 150,000.
I know that.
Okay. So there's like 2 chances that happens, slim and none.
Can't you see the excitement of these two going at each other? I mean,
But it's got to be realistic, Michael.
I like it.
After the race,
Mark,
John
you're too
Ford,
realistic. You have to let it flow.
Yeah, okay. John Fort, the president of Peachtree Stable, without having discussed this with Rick Dutrow,
it's okay.
Said
He
after
owns
the
the
race,
horse.
you know what? Let's run him in another sprint,
Yes.
and then we'll train him to go 1.25 miles for the Kentucky Derby. Okay, he's a son of Pomeroy out of a 2-punch mare. He's going to run 7/8 twice at Gulfstream and then go to the Kentucky Derby, and they're going to have to send a search party to find him.
You call it creative Derby fever.
Please. Now, Dutrow says, and I agree, Dutrow says, I like to stretch out to 9 furlongs off a 7 furlong race.
I agree.
And you know what?
Yep.
If you're going to do that, you do it at Gulfstream because it's a downhill 9 furlongs. And I'm going to tell you something. If they go in the Florida Derby and this horse draws from post 1 to post 6, okay, and he gets into that turn, that's going to be interesting.
I concur.
But that's where you go to take a shot at stretching out. You don't run another 7 furlong race and then train to the Kentucky Derby with the son of Pomeroy.
Regret won it off of 3 6s, just in case you.
That was 1,000 years ago.
Need to look it up.
It was 1,000 years ago. Now, Rick Dutrow's got a lot more on his mind than what to do with Flashpoint, because apparently at the end of this month, right here in Schenectady, the New York State Racing and Wagering Board will hold a hearing to consider suspending or revoking the license of Rick Dutrow to train in New York. Can you remember the last time this happened? Or if it's ever happened?
I mean, I said it last week, and I say it, I'm saddened by this, I'm pained by it, and I hope things work out right for Rick and for the industry. But it's serious, there's no 2 ways about it. I mean, it's a fabulous horse.
This is his livelihood, and March 30th and 31st here in Schenectady, and that's going to be something. Okay. Also last Saturday at Gulfstream, race number 3, an allowance, non-winners of a race other than at 9 furlongs, an event which may produce a couple of starters for the Florida Derby. Watch number 2, Arch Traveler, and number 6, Nacho Business. Arch Traveler had broken his maiden and last in his 3rd career start, while Nacho Business had broken his maiden in his debut and last. Now, there would be a pretty conservative early pace after the opening quarter. Private Prize would go 23-4, 49-14-1. And Jose Lezcano, who I've been very critical of, does a real nice job with Arch Traveler here, taking him back off. You know, Julian wanted to front, and Jose says, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. Let me just ease him off the fence. Arch Traveler's going to sit a perfect stalking trip. Now watch number 6, Nacho Business under Joe Bravo. Going to have to tap on the brakes here when the pace backs up into him, because the second quarter was incredibly slow, 25-1. Now, Arch Traveler would open the lead, turning for home, and he would hold safe a late run from Nacho Business to prevail by 3/4 of a length. It was a pretty good effort from both of these colts.
Well, it was good handling on the first turn, no question about that, and a nice move coming up here. Actually, what I was thinking about when I watched this race was, and it's a trivia question. Was this team? This is Jimmy and Centennial, right?
Yes.
Was Corinthian one of these
Yes.
a few years ago in a similar situation?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's
But
the question
Corinthian
that
was
I
a
had.
nutcase.
No,
He was a
I remember
nutcase.
all that. Yeah, and he wound up win the Met Mile or a big mile, like he won a big mile somewhere.
Yep.
But yeah, you know, this is definitely maybe something leading to the Florida Derby, and a high percentage trainer here, always.
1 minute 52.36. Now, folks, that's 2.13 seconds slower than the Fountain of Youth. But this race was run 3 hours and 40 minutes before the Fountain of Youth. Did the racetrack change, you know, in that time period? I don't know. I mean, a lot of times the Gulfstream Strip slows down as the day goes on. But if they poured a lot of water on the track, you know, it might have sped up, but there's really no way for me to know that. But it was 2.13 seconds slower than the Fountain of Youth. Finally, wanted to show you the final quarter mile of the Turf Paradise Derby. In here, the 70-cent to the dollar favorite was number 1, Indian Winter, who was scratched from the Factors San Vicente a week earlier because of that speed favoring track. This was his 2-turn debut. Watch toward the rear, rallying between rivals in the red cap. Now moving toward the outside is number 5, Beermeister. Beaten as the odds-on choice in each of his last 2 starts in allowance sprints at Turf Paradise. Here, stretching out for his 2-turn debut, you know, whoosh, he just sweeps past the field to score by 2 at a pretty nice price, at 40-1. The reason I'm showing you this is he's a son of Pleasant Tap. Now, they did go quick up front, 22-3, 46-4, and 10-4. But the last 2.5 furlongs was running 31 flat. And he came from the clouds. So his final 2.5 furlongs was under 30 seconds.
Wow.
That's pretty
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
Indian Winter, by the way, barely held third. He was placed second. But you might want to jot down the name Beermeister, which is a catchy name to remember, and see what he does next up. Okay, we are up to our first break on this March 5th edition of the program. Thank you so much for having joined us. When Michael and I return, it's his second pedigree on the class of 2011. As we go to this break, 3-year-old fillies in the Devona Dale going 1 mile. The 13-10 favorite, number 9, Dancing in Her Dreams, who came from far, far off the pace to be second over the track and last in the Forward Gal. The 5-2 second choice, and she took all of the late money. Number 5, Our Heat Lightning, a mediocre 4th in the Forward Gal. As you watch this, pay attention to Dancing in Her Dreams. On the turn, she looked very uncomfortable to me for the second straight time.
Before we go to this, I was very interested in this race because of Dancing in Her Dreams. And as we've said on the show often, frequently fillies from 2 to 3, we see issues. The thing that has me mystified is I don't put her in that category because her 2-year-old season was so easy. I'm mystified by this, and I'm sure John Ward is as well.
Yes, and so am I.
I understand. I know that. Yeah.
So,
but
Watch
You
her
know.
on the turn, just for the second race
You
in a
know.
row. Just looks terribly uncomfortable.
Oh.
So we will take a look at a piece of the Devona Dale going to the break, and Michael and I will be back with his pedigree right after these messages.
They're racing in the Devona Dale. O'Carroll had a good start. Pomeroy's Pistol's going to go up and grab the lead. Dancing in Her Dreams is right there to the outside. And here comes Hot Summer through along the rail. Hot Summer is going to challenge Pomeroy's Pistol. And Dancing in Her Dreams much closer today. Third on the outside, just off the leaders. Then comes O'Carroll and Our Heat Lightning. 3 lengths back to Mending Hearts and Bella Ridge. And Evil Queen is last. 23-4 the opening quarter. Moving down the back stretch, it's Hot Summer in front. Hot Summer leads the way by a half length over Pomeroy's Pistol. O'Carroll, Our Heat Lightning, and Dancing in Her Dreams are right there too. Dancing in Her Dreams only 2.5 lengths off the lead at the half-mile pole. Then Mending Hearts 5 to Evil Queen and the trailer Bella Ridge 46-2 the half. Around the far turn, Hot Summer the leader. Pomeroy's Pistol right up alongside second. Dancing in Her Dreams is outside of Our Heat Lightning. O'Carroll 5th along the rail, and the others have work to do. Pomeroy's Pistol is the leader as they come toward the top of the stretch. 3/4 went in 1:10-3, and Pomeroy's Pistol turns for home in front. Dancing in Her Dreams on the outside. Our Heat Lightning coming through at the rail. Our Heat Lightning's come up on the inside to take the lead. It's Our Heat Lightning in front, leaving Pomeroy's Pistol and Dancing in Her Dreams behind, and Our Heat Lightning's running away. Our Heat Lightning has won the Devona Dale. It is very close for second. Dancing in Her Dreams or Pomeroy's Pistol. O'Carroll was fourth.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veach to my left, I'm Mark CUSANO, and Our Heat Lightning for Todd and Johnny wins the Devona Dale by a commanding 7 1/4 over Dancing in Her Dreams, who really appeared to me to be terribly uncomfortable on the turn. Either I completely overrated Dancing in Her Dreams.
I understand.
And if I completely overrated her, John Ward completely overrated her too.
Yeah.
Or she hasn't moved forward, as you mentioned, from 2 to 3, or she doesn't like Gulfstream. Because this is
There's
twice.
an angle.
It's
There's an
possible.
angle, yeah.
She just doesn't care for Gulfstream. All right. Time for Michael's second pedigree on the class of 2011. This colt has shown consistency. He has a very solid foundation, having made 7 starts, 4 of them at 1 1/16 or longer. He can handle it wet or dry. Well, now we're going to find out if he's got the pedigree to go along with that. Within this pedigree profile, you're going to watch him run second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. He will be number 9 in there. And then you will watch him splash to victory in a Gulfstream Allowance, and you'll see the Fountain of Youth one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael's look at the pedigree of the Kieran McLaughlin-trained Soldat.
Well, Mark and audience, this is the story of two great American breeders and owners whose operations were classic in every sense of the word for several decades of the 20th century, whose bloodlines went rather silent for the last 30 years, and with Soldats have suddenly come alive in the heat of this Triple Crown season. Those two are A.B. Hancock's Claiborne Farm, whose blame got the better of Zenyatta as a centennial celebration of the farm, and Paul Mellon's Rokeby Stable. And at just about the time this female family began a period of decline in the 1970s, William S. Farish and Marcel Jenny bred the horse whose son would infuse Soldats' family with the necessary brilliance to produce the Fountain of Youth winner and perhaps rekindle the old class. The horse was Danzig, who never won a stake, yet became a worldwide influence, and Farish Jenny tapped into the great E.P. Taylor's Northern Dancer to do so. The son is Warfront, sire of Soldats. The story begins with Hancock buying the mare Venturesome II from England nearly 100 years ago for a reported $1,600. As racing historian Ed Bowen notes in his book Great Mares of the 20th Century, the purchase occurred during a time of bad blood between England and the United States. The result was very good blood for Soldats. Venturesome produced Risky, the 8th dam of Soldats and the mother of Risque, winner of the Spinaway, the 10 furlong Alabama, and the 8 furlong Arlington Matron. She also produced Riskulus, winner of the Agua Caliente Derby at 9 furlongs and Arlington Handicap at 10 furlongs. One of Risque's daughters was Risque Blue, the 6th dam of our subject. She was by Colonel E.R. Bradley's tremendous racehorse and sire, Blue Larkspur, winner of the Belmont Stakes. Risque Blue produced the fine colt Risque Rouge, winner of the Buckeye Handicap at 9 furlongs and the Jockey Club Handicap, not the Jockey Club Gold Cup, at 10 furlongs. She also produced Blue Banner, a daughter of Triple Crown winner War Admiral, and the place where Paul Mellon's Rokeby Stable enters this essay. Blue Banner was one of Mr. Mellon's first major stakes winners, taking down the Test Stakes and placing in the 10 furlong Alabama in 1955. She also, Blue Banner, won the 9 furlong Firenze as a 4-year-old and produced a couple of giants for Mr. Mellon through her daughter Key Bridge, the mother of Horse of the Year Fort Marcy and Key to the Mint. Nice pair of sons there, who together won the Washington, D.C. International, the Sunset, the United Nations, the Travers, the Suburban, the Brooklyn, the Whitney, the Woodward, the Man of War, and a host of others in the Rokeby Silks. 5th dam Nadisk also came from Risque Blue, her a foal of 1961, and the point at which the level of accomplishment of this family begins to wane. Her daughter Bobisque was born in 1975, and she's the 4th dam of Soldats. She was stakes placed in Canada, as were her grandchildren Lightning Pace and Stalled Engine through her daughter Sawmill Lady. Lightning Pace was 3rd in the 7 furlong Bessarabian, while Stalled Engine was 3rd in the Summer Stakes. Sawmill Lady produced Soldats' grandmother Malbay to the cover of the fine sire Appalachie, and she dropped Mulroney, winner of the Grade 3 Duchess Stakes in Canada at 7 furlongs, and placed in the Grade 1 Celine and Grade 1 Mazarin, both at 9 panels up north. Malbay produced the unraced Le Relais, the Dam of Soldats, to the cover of Travers winner Coronado's Quest. 1 year after the aforementioned Bobisque was born, the aforementioned Farish and Jenny bred Danzig, the son of Northern Dancer born in 1977 and the father of Warfront. Warfront was born in 2002 and is today at Claiborne Farm, where his sire Danzig stood before him. At the races, Warfront was a top-class sprinter, winning the Vanderbilt at Saratoga and placing in the Vosburg and Forgo, both Grade 1 events. He did, however, win the minor Princelet Stakes at 1 1/16 as a 3-year-old. Warfront brought a marvelous pedigree to the stud, being out of stakes winner Starry Dreamer, who placed in several marathon turf events, including the Sheepshead Bay, Long Island, and La Prevoyante. She dropped Warfront's half-sister Teammate by AP Indy, and she the winner of the Bonnie Miss and Chuvie, and placed in the Alabama to Pine Island. She also dropped his half-brother and turf stakes winners Ecclesiastic, in Riviera Cocktail. Warfront has been highly popular in a sales market that has been basically depressed the last few years, with several of his juveniles surpassing the $250,000 mark. We don't know how far they're going to want to go, but we do know that Soldat has already gotten the 9 furlong question out of the way twice. If he wins the Florida Derby, he'll go to Kentucky with 3 successive victories at a mile and an eighth, making him a rare bird among this crop so far. So the story is now complete. A family once dominant with the colors of Claiborne and Mellon received a new spark plug from Danzig and Warfront in the name of Soldat, or German or French for soldier. Down through the generations, we've had a Blue Banner, a Fort Marcy, a Key Bridge, a Key to the Mint, a Warfront, and a Danzig. So, Mark, how could this horse not be named Soldier?
You know, due in part to the fact that Kieran moved him to grass last year, partway through his 2-year-old season, he has now had 4 starts at a mile and a 16th or longer. Yeah. And as you mentioned, next up is the Florida Derby, again at 9 furlongs. That means if he stays on course, he would go to the Kentucky Derby with 5 races at a mile and a 16th or longer. Can you name me many other Derby candidates who have that kind of a foundation?
I mean, when we get there, we'll be worried about dialed in Uncle Mo, whoever. Okay, Kieran will have had this guy prepped to get there.
Yeah.
That's the key. Whether or not he's good enough, we all know that that's the question. But this doesn't happen too much.
No, it doesn't.
The way he's handled them.
Because if you race on dirt as a 2-year-old, you're going to race 6 furlongs.
That's right.
A mile and a mile and a 16th.
That's right.
That's it.
It's
now, am I right? Is the Factor a Warfront?
He
might be a
very
war
well
front.
could be a
He
war
could be a
front.
war front. 9.5, I don't have it.
Yeah, okay.
9.5
Yeah.
on top.
Yep.
9.70 turf on the bottom for an overall VIETCH rating of 9.60. So he joins the champ, Uncle Mo, as Michael's 2 pedigrees. Uncle Mo with a, I guess somewhat questionable 9.265. But there's Michael's look at Soldat. Thank you, partner.
Enjoyable.
For that.
Great family there.
All right, we are up to our final break on this March 5th edition of the show. When Michael and I return, Mr. John Sadler will join us. So Michael and I, back with John right after these messages. Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veach to my left. I'm Mark CUSANO. In a moment, we're going to welcome in this morning's very special guest. I just want to let you know what kind of a meet he has had this year at Santa Anita. On opening day, he swept the 3 stakes, and he's just kind of kept it going. I believe he's won 8 graded stakes at this meet alone, and he's got a heck of a chance to add to that over the next couple of weekends. So to introduce him, here's Michael.
And we are talking about the very articulate and very positive trainer John Sadler, who we had last year at Saratoga, and we've got this morning at Down the Stretch with Mike Veach and Mark CUSANO. So, John, if you're there, welcome back to our show.
Hey, thank you very much, guys.
Morning, John.
Well, John, we're really happy to have you. Let's get right to work with Twirling Candy in the big cap today, the widely acknowledged leader among older males in California. John, were you at all worried about making the transition to dirt, and you did it in a Grade 1 sprint?
Not really. You know, he's a very, very good horse, and what we're finding out here is that, you know, I mean, the top horse is a top horse, and most of them can run on either surface. You know, he's a very gifted horse, and you know, everything he does is great.
I'm glad to hear you say that about both surfaces, because that was actually going to be one of my questions, but I'm going to go right past that and ask you, you know, when you look at his PPs, there's a versatility that stands out in print. It suggests a pretty tractable individual. How does Twirling Candy take to his training and the handling?
You know, he's kind of a horse that we train him with another horse, and we've been training him to relax all the time. You know, he usually sits behind a workmate when he works, and then picks him up the last 1/8 of a mile.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been very good, very relaxed in the morning, and you know, he's such a natural runner. We always just want to keep him relaxed when he's running.
Well, John, in the same race, you've got Gladding, and if you look at his PPs and you toss the turf race last November, and I know you didn't have him at the time, it does look like Gladding caught fire last fall, and he seems to have gone from strength to strength. How's he doing right now?
He's doing terrific. He had a great work here the other day. Went 7/8 with Bejarano, has been on him for his last 3 works, and he really, really worked well. And we were looking, when I bought him, we were looking for a long-distance dirt horse. You know, we knew that he'd been on the dirt at Calder, and I was thinking the way he was bred, he might be even a horse for the Breeders' Cup Marathon at the end of the year.
Wow, I like that. So this is going to be fun. My next question, we're watching him on the turn in the San Antonio. Well, he's in front, and we're all assuming that, you know, you're going to have an honest pace with him today. But in the category of stranger things have happened question, is he capable of getting away today?
I don't know. I mean, definitely there was no pace in the last race, but today's race, I'm sure that with 10 horses and 4 Baffords, Bafford's going to make sure there's some pace in there.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, First Dude is definitely a horse that wants to be up close for his best. They kind of grabbed him in the Sunshine Millions, and he didn't seem to care for that. So I would imagine there'll be a little more pace today. Gladding can go up on the lead, or he can stalk if he needs to.
Well, John, before I send you to Mark, we're going to talk about Zazu and the Santa Anita Oaks. You've also got her here. She's been a very steady gal for you since last summer at Del Mar. Is Zazu, is she free of major physical issues?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
She's very, very sound, hard-knocking filly, very honest. You know, she just tries hard every time she runs.
Well, right now, John, we're going to take a look at the Las Virgenes and the renewal of your old rivalry with Turbulent Descent. As we watch her, and on the screen, she's gray next to last at the top of the screen. Couple questions on the race. Obviously, the pace that day didn't hurt her. That said, can she improve off the Las Virgenes, and if necessary, be more in touch with the lead if it's called for?
She's definitely on the improve. I think she's going to improve off the Las Virgenes, but she's going to have to. I mean, because this is going to be a more tactical race. Mm-hmm. Both with speed. Now, in this race, they're both Baffert today. So, you know, we're probably not going to get the same swift fractions up front. But as far as, like, being up, can't change her style too much. She's got kind of a short run. So we got to be patient with her.
Well, John, that day you received 5 pounds from Turbulent Descent, and today it's equal. we bring this up occasionally on the show. Does a trainer such as yourself pay attention to weight differences?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, I thought that was one of the things that was in our favor last time. You know, was the weight shift. Today we go at equal weight. So those are all the things we're watching.
John, for my part, great to speak with you today. Here's Mark.
John, good morning.
Good morning.
Before we move on to some of the other stable stars, I want to go back to Twirling Candy for just a second. When he ran 9 furlongs on the main track for the very first time last year in the Goodwood, he never seemed to settle. He kind of dragged Mike Smith around there. Yet in the Strube last out, he relaxed like a pro. Is that just a maturation process? Was there something wrong in the Goodwood last year? What was that all about?
Well, I think it's mostly a maturation. You know, he's just been getting better as he gets older. We gave him some time off after the Goodwood because, you know, I didn't want to press him into the Breeders' Cup. I wanted to have him for this 4-year-old series here at Santa Anita. And Joel Rosario has been his regular rider. He wasn't there that day. He went to ride Blind Luck at Philly Park. And Mike, you know, the horse he just kind of fought him, and he just didn't really get the trip he wanted. But he's really settled nicely since then.
Do you have any concerns about 10 furlongs this afternoon?
No, not at all. I mean, I think he'll be even better at 1 1/4 than he is 1 1/8. You know, my only concern is that we get a good trip, and you know, if we get a good trip, I think we'll be just fine.
Now, one of the stable stars missing in action this afternoon, he would have been in the Kilroe Mile, I assume, is Sydney's Candy. What's going on with him?
Yeah, he's had a couple little nagging injuries here this winter. Nothing major. Just we had some rain and he's missed some time, so he's not ready for the Kilroe Mile. So we're going to get him ready for the Shoemaker Mile at Hollywood. We're even contemplating possibly taking him overseas to Royal Ascot for one, and then obviously we want him at the Breeders' Cup at the end of the year.
Wow, that would be
That's
exciting to go
really.
overseas. All right, you're not only going to be busy this afternoon, but next weekend as well, and we're going to begin with a filly I really like. That is Switch. Here she is romping in the Santa Monica for our audience. She's number 8, third on the outside. John, has she ever been better?
No, I mean she's better than she ever has been. You know, we always thought that, you know, she had a chance to be a better 4-year-old than a 3-year-old. And she's just doing wonderful.
Now, John, next Saturday's Santa Margarita is 9 furlongs. Her only previous try at 9 furlongs came early in her career as a 3-year-old in the Bonnie Miss at Gulfstream, where she didn't run so well. Talk about the stretch out for her next week.
Well, she's another one that was a little bit, I mean, in the Bonnie Miss last year, she was in front. We didn't want to be in front. Some horse kind of didn't make the turn in that race, and she ended up in the lead by default. She'd flown in to run in that race, but now she's training at home, and, you know, she wanted a mile going away at Del Mar, and then, you know, you certainly had 1 1/16 to Zenyatta. You know, she was a neck back. So, I mean, I don't think she's going to have a problem with the distance, you know, now that she's relaxing so well.
I want to take you back to the Lady Secret for just a couple of seconds. When she opened the lead that day in the stretch against Zenyatta, what was going through your mind?
Well, you know, it's funny. You know, you think you have it. You know, you think, God, it's gonna work. then Zenyatta just gobbles you up. You know, just like a praying mantis or something. You know,
That's a good one. Like
you know, everybody had their own take on, you know, how to race against Zenyatta. What I didn't like was a couple of the races, you know, guys wanted to carry her out past the middle of the track, and my theory with Switch is we were going to try to hide from her. I said, try to cut the corner.
Yeah.
Hopefully she can't see you.
Yeah.
You know, because if you get up next to her, she's going to get you. So we tried. He rode a beautiful race.
Yeah.
We tried to cut the corner a little bit and slip away, and everything went just exactly like we planned.
Yeah.
Couldn't quite win.
Except it's Zenyatta. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
Also next Saturday, the San Felipe for 3-year-olds, and you've got a second-time starter in Run Flat Out. Here he is for our audience in his debut. He's number 2, second on the outside. Talk about your colt, if you would, John.
This is a highly touted colt that, has been, really well regarded. He ran very well the first time, very fast. The track's been fast here. But, he's still a really nice horse. And we were really thrilled with his first race.
Okay, now next Saturday he'll be stretching out around 2 turns in a race which will likely feature some other sprinters stretching out, as well as a more seasoned colt like Kama to the Top and Jay Cito. What are your thoughts about Run Flat Out? John, will he sit and relax for the rider? What about going 2 turns?
We think he'll relax, and set off it a little bit. That's why I've been training him. I worked him. Garrett worked him one time behind another horse. Worked before last. He did beautiful. And then I had a really encouraging work last week. He went 7/8 here last week, and he was really fresh at the end of the work. So he's really gifted. So but that's probably going to be one of the best Derby preps anywhere. That's going to be a very strong race.
John, you have had a great meet. I told the audience I believe it's 8 graded stakes this meet. Just a fabulous meet. And another gentleman who's had a fabulous meet is jockey Joel Rosario. John, the more I watch him, the more I'm impressed with the young man. What's he bring to the table?
He's very young. He's very strong. And he's got ice in his veins. He's the kind of kid that nothing flusters him. You can't get him upset. And he's just one of the, as far as you talk about jockeys on a national level, he's a rising superstar in the jockey colony. Picked up a Breeders' Cup already last year on Dakota Phone. He's really, really good. And man has every right to keep improving and get even better.
And finally, John, as a Californian, what would it mean to you to win this afternoon's Big Cap?
Oh, it means everything to me. This is where I've cut my teeth my whole life. Used to come out here as a child with my parents and picnic in the infield. This is the highlight of the winter meet, the Big Cap. So it would be just, it would be absolutely incredible.
Great.
Well, John, again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate having been on with us this morning on Down the Stretch. All the best this afternoon and next week, and we hope to be speaking again very soon.
Yeah, we also run a really good maiden in the second today.
Okay.
Oh.
Chico de Oro. Keep your eye on him.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Good luck, John.
John Sadler,
All right, guys.
ladies and
Take care.
gentlemen, he has had a great meet and looks to continue that for the next couple of weekends at least. All right, let's get you caught up on a couple of things. Want to let you know about the Winter Handicapping Challenge coming up in a couple of weeks, March 19th and 20th at the Albany Teletheater. For more information, you can go to capitalotb.com. But that's a nice event because all the entry fees are returned as prize money. So you're playing with no takeout. And first couple of finishers go to Vegas. So that's a nice thing. So go to capitalotb.com. And for those of you who would like to correspond with us here at Down the Stretch, like William did last week, and William wrote us about a ride that Ramon Dominguez put up this past week at Aqueduct, which really was a fabulous ride. You can reach us at Down the Stretch, Mark and Mike, Capital District OTB 510 Smith, Schenectady 12305, or electronically at viewermail@capitalotb.com. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air as we begin our 20th year on the air. Pete Persico directed, and Pat Peretta and Dan Hayes, and our associate producer, Julie Hoxie. And we want to send out our best to one of the techs here, Kurt Flick, who works on the show. All the best to Kurt.
Okay, Kurt.
And, wow, we kick off 19 winters together. Oh,
Do you feel any older?
yes, I feel a lot older. Believe me, I do. All right, enjoy the weekend. We've got the Gotham in New York today. We've got Big Cap Day at Santa Anita. Tomorrow, we've got Dialed in that allowance race. And next Saturday, Uncle Mo and the Timely Writer, the Tampa Bay Derby, and the San Felipe. So thank you again for having joined us. Enjoy the weekend. Have a wonderful upcoming week. And from all of us here at Down the Stretch, we'll see you next week.